how much of what's happening is really a total black box.
With this rapid development of AI has also come a trust crisis.
There's a lot of online bullying, so a lot of damage is being produced online.
You want trust, you need data, you want a connection to the knowledge base.
By nature, it has to be open, it has to be permissionless, open sourced.
Welcome everybody to a very special episode of the On Trac podcast. Now you may notice, just to say it up front, my hair is a little bit glistening at the moment. That is because we are actually all here in New York in person. It is rainy. You may be able to see it outside there. And because this podcast is so important to me, I was running in the rain to get here on time. I forgot my umbrella, and now I'm glistening for a very special day. So
Thank you for glistening, Jonathan.
it's my pleasure, only for you. So yeah, we are here for the Decentralized Knowledge Graph Conference, DKG-Con 2025, which will be, at the time of recording, tomorrow. Very excited for that. But also we are here because of AI, artificial intelligence. It seems like every day there's a new development in the AI world, a new protocol, whether crypto or Web 2, a new release from ChatGPT or OpenAI. And with this rapid development of AI has also come a trust crisis, one might say, where it's hard for, let's say, me as a consumer of AI to know, should I trust this model? Is what it's telling me correct? Should I trust the company that's collecting the data for this model? What are they going to do with that data? So again, this rapid pace of AI development has come with these issues, lots of hopes as well, but certain issues such as the trust one. So where does this lead us? Well, it leads us to OriginTrail. OriginTrail is kind of at this convergence of decentralized applications, knowledge graphs, artificial intelligence, and now we're throwing in there AI agents is another thing that's very excited, and that might be redefining the way in which all this technology works together. One might even say it converges together, which brings me to the Metcalfe convergence phase, which I'm told is something we are in or entering into. I'm not 100% sure what it means yet, but we have four amazing guests here today that are going to help us walk through and explain to the simple mind that I am what all this means. And so let's just get right into it. Why don't we start with some introductions? Maybe just starting with Branimir, just a very quick 2-second, maybe it's better, 2-second introduction, who you are and what brings you to this conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. Hi, everybody. I'm Branimir. I'm one of the founders of the three that are here behind OriginTrail, and super happy to chat all things Convergence today. And may I pass the buck to Bob, who probably nobody knows who you are, so you have to introduce yourself very thoroughly.
All right, so my name is Bob Metcalfe, and I'm a undergraduate thesis I wrote in 1968, and the title of it was A Neuron Model. So I've been watching AI go like this for a very long time, and it comes and it goes. Now the previous coming and going, the previous ones, there are many, AI just died because it couldn't get enough data. This time is different because we have the internet now. And so that's what we're all about, is getting the data to the AI. The AI needs data to do its thing, and in various ways we're in the business of getting that data there.
Bob is being very humble. First of all, he's a doctor, Dr. Metcalfe. He invented Ethernet and he helped invent the internet. So just want to throw that out there for everybody watching. Very humble guy.
Yes, I guess.
Never been accused of that before.
Okay, so no pressure for me. Bob is, just a pioneer of internet, so it's not gonna be hard to trump that. I'm Žiga, one of the co-founders at OriginTrail, and what is interesting now, before we go into the Metcalfe convergence phase, and intentionally we chose Metcalfe, as his surname as a name for this very important phase, is because it also introduces a whole new array of network effects that are also importantly impacting how OriginTrail is also bringing benefits to artificial intelligence. Now, OriginTrail, the decentralized knowledge graph, even before the advent of popularity of neural AI or generative AI, was here, but it served a little bit different purpose. It drove transparency and trust in supply chains in a little bit more SaaS-ish way. So that was prior to the development to the launch of ChatGPT and so on. And now, since 2022, OriginTrail has become a very, let's say, important partner to generative AI, because it can, as also Bob has pointed out in one of his quotations, decentralized knowledge graph can also improve fidelity of artificial intelligence. We're really glad to have Bob with us, and we're really admirer of his work, and we want to at least partially recreate, let's say, the success of the internet by establishing the biggest knowledge network that would improve fidelity of artificial intelligence, and also bring about the value based on network effects between this knowledge generated in the decentralized knowledge graph. Passing the buck to Tomaž.
Oh, yeah. Hi, everyone. Tomaž, sharing the title with Branimir and Žiga, as one of the founders of OriginTrail. Not sharing the title of being inventor of Ethernet with Dr. Metcalfe, even though that would be pretty amazing. But I am excited to be in New York these days. It seems that we are seeing, like you mentioned, Jonathan, a lot of rapid developments picking up in the AI space that are very much calling for this convergence. And we're touching on some very important topics today and tomorrow at the conference and at the DKG-Con in New York. And it's just a very interesting time where it's very easy to be kind of like a beat the doomsday drum with the rapid development of AI. But it's important to kind of show the path towards, let's say, more techno-optimist, in a more techno-optimist direction. And especially because the decentralized knowledge graph can be a very important catalyst to that future, where we can really, as a humanity, attack challenges which before were perhaps hard to imagine to be tackled with technology at that scale, in that scope, driving collaboration, more knowledge exchange, and even being able to leverage artificial intelligence to spawn or create new findings and new knowledge out of the existing knowledge base that's available. So a lot of very important kind of building blocks laid out for that convergence that Jonathan was mentioning, and I think it's we can kick off something really, really exciting in this couple of days even.
Kick off something exciting right now, starting with Dr. Metcalfe. So you helped create the internet, as I mentioned in your intro. So which principles do you think we got right when the internet was created, and which principles are now here to haunt us?
Well, the time is everything. Timing is everything. And so the question you asked sort of stretches over an enormous period of time. But when you look back on it, it's like 3 days. It's 60 years in reality. What we got right was to strive for connectivity. There wasn't a lot of worrying about techno this or that. Everyone understood that connectivity is a net positive. You bring connectivity, and my law says that you connect things together, they're more valuable. And so by focusing on connectivity rather than worrying about, well, maybe we're worrying now about what we do with that connectivity. The connectivity has now come so quickly. Since October 29th, 1969, when the internet first sent a packet, to today, we've added 5.7 billion people. And in my book, that's fast. And the fastness is what has created problems. I call them pathologies. Like the first pathology was hacking. December of '73, 2 high school students broke into the internet from Los Angeles. The second pathology was pornography. The U.S. government passed a law called the Communications Decency Act, which, thank God, was declared unconstitutional a year later. And now there's, as you know, no more pornography on the internet. And then the third major problem was advertising. We didn't build the internet to carry ads, and so when ads started to appear, we were really upset. And then overnight, advertising became the principal source of revenue for the internet. So those are three things we got wrong-ish, and we've learned a lot. And as I say, they were allowed to occur because the connectivity came on so fast we couldn't figure it out. It took a while to figure it out. So these days we have a new set of problems. The principle, well, they have to do with trusting the data and preserving the data and protecting data from. We haven't solved the privacy issue yet. We certainly haven't solved the hacking problem yet. And so we're working on those. I say a lot of people working on it these days, working through these pathologies and fixing them one by one.
Mm. And then for the founders, whoever wants to take this question, what exactly is this Metcalfe convergence phase that I was hinting at the intro? Very curious about that. And how does that fit in with the OriginTrail vision and what it's been up to so far?
By the way, Metcalfe's also curious about it.
Who wants to touch on that?
Brian, go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can give it a stab. So it's been cooking for a while, but basically, like you introduced, the DKG has been growing both in technical terms and in adoption terms for a while through a synergy of technologies, a convergence of technologies already. So somewhere around 2016, we learned that knowledge graphs by themselves in databases and knowledge graphs are not enough because they cannot solve the issues we were talking about here today by themselves in a central way. So that's where blockchain came about. Blockchain is this still very revolutionary technology of managing trust in digital space, and the combination of those two still very unique today. DKG, though there have been some attempts on the side that we've kind of seen, the DKG is still not just the pioneering and the first, but also the biggest decentralized knowledge graph in the world that combines knowledge graphs and blockchains. That over time, around 2018, it launched on the mainnet in production. It was ready for version 1. Today, just for reference, we're on version 8, which brings, I think, 100,000 or 1 million X scale compared to V1, something along the lines of that, depending on where we get, because we just launched. And meanwhile, I was introduced to neural AI. So, by the way, knowledge graphs are symbolic AI. So they're a branch of AI that has been around for a while, and it's quite a successful branch. Not just knowledge graphs, which are used all over the place, like the biggest companies in the world use them, but also the AI world has been using them for a long time. For example, Google. You probably heard of this, the AlphaGo. That was one of the biggest breakthroughs that was beating the best players. It was a form of symbolic AI, actually. So rather neurosymbolic AI, a combination of graph traversals through possible states of the game and actually predicting what are the best states for the computer AI to play against the player. So a lot of this converges together into OriginTrail today, which combines also the neural models as of the last couple of years, starting as more of a kind of facilitator, to use the DKG, to a fully formed fusion of neurosymbolic AI today, or what we like to call collective neurosymbolic AI, which is really a way of establishing synergy, not just on the technological level, but also convergence on a human level, so that we as humans can leverage the DKG to collaborate, but also participate in the decisions through shared governance, through incentives that we can guide, and ultimately be humans in the loop. So the convergence phase, which is a roadmap phase, famously named by also a Turing Award winner, which, by the way, who doesn't know, is basically your Nobel Prize of the computer science, Dr. Bob Metcalfe, is really there, and the name was chosen because of this synergy and because of this connectivity of the technologies and the enablement that DKG gives to the builders. It's not just that; it's also by nature has to be open. It has to be permissionless, open source, and therefore it's an exciting period coming up that will foster even more of all of that we just kind of touched upon briefly.
Can I quickly ask?
Yes.
It wasn't that long ago where every conference, every party, every conversation was about blockchain.
Yeah.
You have not heard blockchain mentioned for months, years now, and AI has come up. What happened? Is blockchain dead? Is it gone? Where is blockchain?
It's a good question. It's here, and it's here to stay. But I think it's found its own place, which wasn't initially advertised properly. So it was when it was new. The pitch was it's gonna do everything. It's gonna cure cancer and pay attention to your kids while you're not there. But actually, it's not meant to do that. It's also not meant to be a database. A lot of people thought of, oh, it's a great new data structure. We should use it as a database. But turns out that one of the key properties of databases is actually retrieval, which you might have heard of through RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Retrieval is in a way almost a form of reasoning, and blockchain has none of that. Blockchain just has the ability to very safely store information, and that is useful for use cases like protecting of integrity of information, finance, things like that. There's plenty others that I'm sure are going to be discovered, but it's not as a component. It has is still finding its perfect match, and it's really a component. It's not a end solution. It's an infrastructural thing. So meanwhile, with the booming of AI, which is very tangibly usable by everybody very easily, obviously blockchain is sometimes a bit on the back seat, but it's definitely here to stay, because AI in a way we cannot really say that we can do some sort of shared AI without trust primitives. So it's obviously being seen more and more all the time with the problems that are stemming from AI, such as deepfakes, such as untrustworthy content online. It's every day it's growing bigger and bigger, and that's where the primitives of trust, such as the ones that blockchain provides, are going to be extremely important. So its time is coming.
Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily agree that it disappeared or that it's not being talked about. When you have a president launching his own meme token, and same as his the first lady launching the meme token on one of the blockchains. So blockchains are being more and more used. Maybe they're not being used in a way that we would like to see as much relative to speculation, such as like meme tokens, like Trump and Melania token, for instance. But they are becoming more and more used also for other purposes outside of speculation. For example, when we launched the first network, and this is also kind of touching why now is the time to enter the convergence phase. So back in 2018-19, when we launched the first network, the first DKG, it was barely scalable. We managed to publish some 100 knowledge assets per day-ish, or even less.
It wasn't even knowledge assets. It was just records.
It was a different kind of primitive.
Yeah.
Of course, the knowledge asset came about a little bit later, but kind of analogous, let's say, knowledge package to knowledge assets, which we know today. We could count them in less than 100 knowledge assets per day. Now, with the version 8 of Decentralized Knowledge Graph, which came to be in the beginning of this year or at the end of last year, this number went up to around 10 million knowledge assets per day of a capacity, the scale at which publishers can publish on the DKG, which translates into 100,000 kx, right, from V1 to V8. And that also, brought about more intensive use of blockchains in our own world within the decentralized knowledge graph, which, by the way, is multi-chain. So we're using more blockchains. Perhaps for, let's say, a little bit more communication purposes, we're obfuscating the mentioning of blockchains because it's not necessary to use the component when we're advocating for the use of decentralized knowledge graph, which has gone, its use has gone from supply chains, from enterprise use, to also ensuring internet safety. And tomorrow, or when this podcast will have aired, there's also going to be some details known about how decentralized knowledge graph is being used to ensure safety online, so safety of content, and how we prevent online harm at internet scale. And internet scale literally means that decentralized knowledge graph is right now capable of ingesting knowledge at internet scale. And that brings us to convergence, because of this internet scale, now is the time for decentralized knowledge graph to also be used to not only drive the fidelity of artificial intelligence, but also fidelity of agency, or fidelity of AI agents, which are to act on our behalf. And we better make sure that these agents act based upon data with traceable origins. So origins matter, and we need to be tracing the origins in order to trust the source. And now that we got this capacity, which is also being enabled by the DKG, now is the time to enter the convergence space. Of course, there are some nitty-gritty details with regards to the version 8 of the OriginTrail, which is now also in the process of being updated towards the version 8.1, which introduces some of the very much sought features, such as random sampling, which even additionally boosts the scalability of the DKG. But the main components are already here. And the main components are not necessarily developed by us only, and hence the convergence, because the DKG can converge towards the technologies developed by other internet giants or other developers in Garage. So basically any agent can benefit from this collective memory that decentralized knowledge graph is becoming.
That's a great transition to my next question, which is, what is wrong today with how AI learns and shares information? And then you're saying the DKG has a lot of solutions to things. So where does the DKG fit in? How does the DKG fix whatever's going wrong with AI today?
Maybe flip it around. I think there's a few things that it does spectacularly well. Like, have you played with agents at all? Like either the AutoGPT back a couple of years ago, or right now, if you're testing out some of the, let's say, more advanced reasoning models, you give them some task, and you watch it. I think DeepSeek was the first to introduce, like, breaking it down in sub tasks that how it plans, reasons, goes, taps into multiple resources from data site, different tools that it can leverage, and then create an output. It's in a way that enter moment for Google. This seems like for AI, it's a very different way of how we're interacting with technology. So agent usage is a leap forward in the way how we're using the internet likely in the future, because it just seems very ridiculous for you to go and click through some stuff if you can have technology do it for you, right? And you focus more on the objectives, the tasks, the clear instructions of what you want to have achieved, and then have technology work for you 24/7, 365, however long it needs to complete the task. Now, this is spectacularly good. However, big caveat then starts to happen is through this line of using these types of agentic features, we have all these questions that we've been thinking and working on for so long. How do we have transparency? How much of what's happening is really a total black box, and the users aren't brought in to understand how the particular output has been constructed? Either that stems from lack of information provenance, Either it stems from the verifiability, so knowing that the information that you received wasn't taken from a source that could easily be compromised, or there was some attack in the middle that you kind of are then subject to. How can you verify the owner of that wasn't placed by malicious intent or a manipulation of sources that were there? So how can you have these core components or primitives just available by design, so that when you're using these agent solutions or services, you can have a level of transparency and trust in how this particular output was derived, that we can move beyond trivial use cases. Because for trivial use cases, if we're talking about something that's just write a text or like fix this, fix that, it's not that problematic. But when we move beyond that, if we want to have these type of agent systems control our factories, control our education, control our healthcare, control our defense or stuff like that, then that becomes non-trivial, right? So we do not want to have mistakes, or we do not want to have hallucinations in these types of scenarios. We want to have guardrails. We want to have understanding of how these things operate. And in a way, it seems that if we are able to achieve that, we need convergence, because blockchain, we need it it's just the most convenient way to handle ownership and verifiability. So it's a component that makes sense to be used. We need semantics, because we need context of data. It's not just data. It's not just something we throw there. We need to have it connected. We need to have it structured in a way that agents can consume it very easily. And now all of these things starts to fall in place. We need symbolic AI. We need neural AI, because it's super great at planning. It's great reasoning resource. It can break down tasks, it can figure it out, and we can refine it in ways that these agents can act really nicely. It can use protocols, agent to agent, or tap into services, but we need all of these things to converge. And once they do, then we can unlock. It's almost like a moment of, I use this example a lot, so apologies if you've heard it before, but it's like an aviation. When we started off and you had some people that were adrenaline junkies and jumping off cliffs with some stuff glued to their arms. Some of them didn't end well, some of them did, and figured out what maybe is a better way to fly. But still, they were very much risk takers, whoever were the first. But if we fast forward, a few decades, when we had more regulations in place in terms of societal agreement of what's a safe use of aviation, we have mass travel. This is incredible. Like, the world became so much closer because of that fact. So let's say in an example of that's just one industry, if we apply it to something as fundamental as artificial intelligence, which is a electricity type possibly invention, we can really have a lot of important humanity scale implications, and the convergence should support that. So we're not saying that this is the entirety of what's required. There's so many important problems to be worked on. So many teams, so many smart people need to get engaged on these types of challenges for this to get unlocked. But the intuition is very strong that these primitives are very important to exist for this future to be able to unfold. I don't think I went totally in the direction of just what's wrong and then how DKG kind of plays into it. But to me, that's an exciting prospect, and to not only kind of wait and see how it happens, but rather really get involved and kind of work on that future to become a reality.
Let me add another form of convergence. You probably know, I barely know, how you take the vast amount of data and you train. So training is a big activity.
Yep.
Then after you've trained, then people ask questions. That's inference. And inference, the experts tell me, is now much more computation than training. It's very inference heavy. But the convergence is training and inference are now converging.
It's like a reinforced learning with using that.
Right, you add knowledge through your inference, and that inference knowledge gets picked up and gets added to the LLM. So I think that's a very important part of the convergence. Because when you're converging like that, you want trust, you need data, you want a connection to the knowledge base. I'm here at the knowledge conference because I think the internet is hungry for knowledge.
I agree. And it's like all of these things you can then leverage, because it's not the inference also has an element of who is triggering it and what's the feedback that they're providing. Because if I'm talking about plumbing, if you're a plumber and you've provided additional knowledge on the back of how the plumbing system output was created by AI, like that's a very valuable insight into retraining and reinforcement learning that particular model or an agent, and then how it should act, versus me, who I don't know nothing about plumbing. So my input is of low value. So like, how do we structure that knowledge and give that level of transparency? It's absolutely crucial, and you can do so much cool stuff with it.
So in one of my projects now, I have a discussion with GPT. I refer to her as she, and she and I are working together on a project, and I wanted to recreate the evolution of the early phases of our relationship. So I say to her, I want you to forget everything that I've ever told you. And she comes back and says, what do you want to do next? And then we play for a while, and suddenly I begin to see that she's actually using information that I told her the first time. So that's getting tucked away in there somewhere. So this convergence of the training and inference is well underway.
Yeah. It's data is gold in that sense, right? And we had a brief conversation on that earlier today as well. It's like just how valuable which type of data is, and whether, are we really capturing the entirety of what's the most powerful insights through scraping public internet? Or is there much more to, let's say, potentially unveil through organizational data that's currently privately held and not exposed to these types of trainings, right? So how much more could we really advance non-trivial AI solutions if we are looking for ways of enabling discoverability of such data, and then enable for a more fluid collaborative exchanges of knowledge? Here we're really then coming to something that could be a different paradigm. And if we can do it in a way where that doesn't require any given entity to give up their data by way of just getting replicated into your system, copied in, right? But rather, I'll keep my data up to date, secure, and clean, structured for you, but here in on my side. And your agent can just come in and ask whatever it needs to. But then I still have my wrapper knowing, like, what are you asking? So it's not so that I'm just giving everything to you and then you can play with it, right? So we can have the best of both worlds. You have access to the most real-time inputs from my side, but at the same time I also know for what are you querying my system
Let me
for.
complicate it a little. So let's say A equals 5, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
Goes into the knowledge base, and then another user comes along and says A equals 9. And that goes into the database.
Yeah.
So how do you solve that?
Well,
what do you do?
Well, we took a page out of your book, which was a conversation around fake news, and you said, I believe it was at the Knowledge Graph conference a few years ago, and the point that you made was that we should enable filtering at the highest level to give users a way to choose which source they deem to be trusted in their eyes. So in a way, like, choose your conspiracy theory a little bit. But and we do the same thing. So we said identity is a core primitive of what's written in. It's not just the addition of A equals 9 or A equals 5, but it's that plus contextual metadata of who contributed that, who owns it, that it hasn't been tampered with since it was published and until when your agent or you are accessing it. And all of this, the entirety of it, is basically what is the input. And then if you decide that you trust me to provide that axiomic knowledge about how much A is, then you'll filter everyone else out. And you'll say, Tomaž, you're the guy for A's. How much is A?
It's not.
Right. But the trouble,
I know.
well, the trouble with that scenario you've just sketched is there's a gazillion trillion A equals 5s out there.
Yeah.
You don't have time to go through every one and say, I choose that one, and I choose that
Yeah.
one, and I choose that one.
Well, it's also true. And then, like, I think that's a very interesting problem to go fight. I mean, is how can we, what we have in the DKG is a structured knowledge. So that A equal 5s that are scattered around, they are all somehow relationally connected to some other pieces of data in the knowledge graph, either by identity or by proximity or by field or whatever it is. And what's an interesting problem to tackle is how can we create AI-powered or symbolic AI-powered tools that allows us to go from that structured data to creating insights. So how can we enrich that data set by providing some assessment of any given data point that exists with more knowledge, basically?
So you come to this A equals 5, 9 question with context.
Yes.
And it's the context that helps you decide which one you're going to choose.
Yes.
And that's automatic. So the human being doesn't actually have
exactly.
Doesn't have to say.
And then the minute you chose what your context gave you as correct, whoever is the next one can actually rely also on your previous decision, saying, okay, if Bob chose that context to be relevant, then I'll also
my choice becomes part of his
yes,
context.
if you allow it,
So we're talking about this convergence. What are some of the real world use cases or applications that are emerging, have already emerged, that might emerge in the future from this convergence? Like 𝘕𝘦𝘵𝘃 might be an example.
Yeah, perhaps we could touch upon 𝘕𝘦𝘵𝘃 a little bit later, but we can also start with a little bit more boring use cases like enterprise and supply chains. And supply chains, in fact, are not chains; they're networks. And this is where also law of network effect is applicable in terms of how much more value you can extract from knowledge that is being shared amongst different parties in supply chains. And one such, let's say, real-world example here in the United States is a consortium of importers to United States. And perhaps now that tariffs are on the agenda, this is not as hot as it used to be. But in our world, it proves the point that if you have a collective of companies, and even though those companies are competing, for instance, you have Walmart using the solution called Scan Trusted Factory based on OriginTrail, and you also have their competitors from Home Depot and dozens of other retailers or importers to the United States. And what they do, they're actually exchanging knowledge amongst the network of competitors in order to elevate the safety of imports to the United States. And now you can imagine, just Walmart making sure that they extract some value from their own data silo. It's valuable. But now imagine a collective of retailers exchanging a much more vast amount of knowledge. And then in turn, this knowledge becomes much more valuable both for Walmart, for Home Depot, and everybody in the network. It's like a telephone line through which they, in a trustless way, exchange information amongst competitors. And this is where we feel that there's a kind of a genius of such permissionless networks where even competing entities might gain a lot by collaborating. They say knowledge is power, knowledge shared is power multiplied, and this is all very much nested on the same law of network effects. So this is a little bit more boring use case, and perhaps 𝘕𝘦𝘵𝘃, which is now coming to be, and is also addressing some of the the biggest challenges of internet, such as child pornography, revenge porn, things that are really indirectly hurting a lot of teenagers. There's a lot of online bullying, so a lot of damage is being produced online to people young and old. And this is perhaps also where we feel that OriginTrail is going to deliver, let's say, an even bigger and more imminent impact than some of the older use cases. And perhaps Tomaž, you can talk a little bit to 𝘕𝘦𝘵𝑃's use case.
I mean, the online harms, we were talking about it. Even Bob, you were mentioning a few pathologies of the internet that we've seen over the years, and with the advent of more powerful ways of creating and distributing content. Obviously, the previously pathological examples have the potential to grow much faster. So it's very important to start thinking across through the lens of either a safety valve or creating basically an alignment where we can have machines the good machines help fight the bad machines in a way, right? So we need to figure out how humanity can stay in this loop to be protected. And Humanitech is forging a very powerful coalition. There was obviously the announcement of some advisory board members that joined the project, which were very, very big names, including the co-founder Azar Askin, who was the architect behind the Social Dilemma documentary together with Tristan. And they were already then raising some of the problematics around the importance of curbing the harms of or potential harms of artificial intelligence. And so to have these types of thinkers as a part of the company is very powerful also. And in a way makes us proud as co-founders of Humanitech to see that alliance forging. And it's as a company, it benefits from DKG being internet scale, because those are all internet scale problems. So if you want to limit the harmful content online, you need something that can really be broadly applicable. And then it also revolves very fluently through other there's two sides of the same problem. Is either you try to identify something as bad content, or you're also being able to protect someone else's, let's say, intellectual property in a very same way. So these challenges are just feeding off of each other. And Humanitech is also going to have a presentation tomorrow at the conference, and they're speaking to what's the current work being done. And I think sharing the excitement of all of us here to see that come live, as well as it's a very important mission that has a long way to kind of keep progressing in that sense, with the very tangible steps, very tangible usage of products, of technologies that are available. But at the same time, it's a very, very ambitious project that it will not be over in a month or two or something. This is a very broad
and perhaps
vision.
Taking one step back, why decentralized knowledge graph and why not any other technology? How does it facilitate network of data publishers who indeed exchange data information without exchanging the actual content, without encroaching on their own IP, the technological IP, and so on, and still in the same manner as US retailers exchanging knowledge, they are producing value for themselves, for their competitors, for the entire internet, and
100%. I think it's literally the same principle, which allows people to create their knowledge basis of flagged content. I say, okay, this content I know it's mine, it's my IP, I'm protecting it, boom, here it is. Or this content I know that we came across, it's not good. Also, you're able to label and create this context basically around different content pieces. And it's important that this can be decentralized, because again, you do not want to, sometimes it's also illegal to share this type of content online. You're not allowed to send it anywhere. So there's two elements to why DKG is very powerful in these types of scenarios, is because everyone can keep control and ownership of their part of the directory, but at the same time, we can access on a need-to-know basis the entirety of it. And the second important point is that we can bring compute to data. So if we're talking about different encryption techniques and stuff like that, we can actually bring it to where the data resides, so that you can actually perform retrievals or queries across the network in an encrypted way, without needing to expose the actual content to any other system outside of your control. So a few very, very important points that the DKG where DKG acts as an enabler for Humanitech to tackle this kind of internet scale problem.
You said a second ago the idea of it's like good machines fighting bad machines. I've seen that movie. It's called Terminator 2, and it ended well. Arnold won. He beat the bad machine, so I think that is going to bode well for you guys. That's a good sign. So maybe to wrap up the conversation here, we are here for DKG Con 2025 NYC edition. As I understand, there will be another Amsterdam edition at the roughly the same time, I think, October. So the DKG Con community is active. It's growing. I'm a part of it. I'll be there tomorrow, and I'm very excited for it. So what can people who are watching this now do to get involved? or kind of pay attention to DKG-Con?
Yeah. So because now we're beyond the DKG Con here in New York, by
True,
the time
fair
this
enough.
will have aired,
True.
You may apply to submit theoretical research or research paper relevant for decentralized knowledge graph or AI in general via the edge nodes on the decentralized knowledge graph, and you may even compete for some of the rewards that will be distributed to the best contributions, research contributions. And in Amsterdam, on the DKG Con in Amsterdam, we will announce the 10 best contributions to this theoretical body of knowledge. And this is not just theoretical body of knowledge that we cannot, it's not actionable upon, but actually it's an applied research that in not that much distant future, within the convergence phase, will be implementable in the current technological stack of decentralized knowledge graph. So apply, try to find the best possible and relevant research field that you might be interested in, and you might be one of those 10 lucky contributors which not only will receive a reward, but also may be eligible to develop certain things useful for the DKG ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a bunch of very difficult problems. I mean, we touched a few on this conversation as well. So it's a good time to get involved. DKG Con.
But the answer you just gave was small. You're talking very technical research papers.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big version of that question is, when do the non-technical people begin to see the benefits of the DKG?
I think that's a fair question as well. And the thing that we've I think also blockchain as well as DKG had a challenge with is that it's a fairly fundamental technology that isn't interfacing the user directly. With AI, that gets kind of flipped a little bit, because now we have this ultimate UI. Like how you're talking to her doing research, wouldn't it be cool if she would have access to like a structured body of knowledge that's DKG, and then via literally that interface you're able to both publish new things on the DKG as your inferences or as your new knowledge or as your new technical paper, or you're able to discover stuff that already exists.
I can already imagine her sequel starring Dr. Bob Metcalfe and her based on DKG.
I love story. It's her preferred pronoun.
What can you do?
Kind of you to ask.
Well, actually, to add a little bit on top of that, I think what you've seen in history was, and you told me, people were not sure why would they need these modems in the Ethernet, and why wouldn't they use the sneaker net, right? And now it's like common knowledge. Everybody's like, I don't know, it seems like an idea that like was right from the start and obvious that we should have the internet, right? So we will, in the same way, we will all have agents, AI agents that will do something for us. That will be normal. Our kids will have them. That will be like, whatever toys, and those things will actually be interacting with the world and learning through that. So the training and inference will happen not because somebody's stuffing a lot of data into one LLM and then let's let it infer. Like today, it will actually be a live thing. It will be learning like people. So like we learn through interactions, like how we learn to walk, how we learn a new language, like I learned English. It's not my first language. So agents will be doing that, and will be doing that at exponential pace compared to what people were doing. So there's a shit ton of use cases there, which are going to actually be unlocked very soon. One I'm particularly excited about, which ties into your project, is decentralized science. So the ability to generate new scientific discoveries, but not by guesswork of LLMs, but rather a combination of guesswork and combination of synthesizing good hypothesis. Google is doing something really exciting here. They're creating a system called Alpha Proof, which is proving mathematical theorems at the level of an Olympiad, I think runner-up, not the winner, but the second one. This year, AI was able to prove mathematical theorems. And it wasn't guesswork. It was actual groundwork, if you will. So you can just imagine how many different use cases come from that, and that's right here. And without the DKG, doing just that is in a way very much like doing computer science without internet today. It will be impossible to generate the value or to compete with the value generated if you were doing it with a DQG. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Well, there have been many surprises in this history we've been touching. Do you have any surprises that you think are going to occur now?
Interesting.
Like you mentioned agents. Are agents supported by 8.1?
Agents are supported already now. So 8.0 already supports agents. Yes.
Any surprises there? Have the agents surprised you in some way?
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some pretty incredible things. Like it's able to construct very clever filtering and knowledge graph queries if you give it the right graph and the right information. And that's something we're actually working on together with another enterprise partner, Amazon, and some experts from long-standing experts from Orteca and the knowledge graph guys. We're presenting that actually tomorrow at the knowledge graph conference. And you will see an agent querying a knowledge graph in a very clever way. Doing that as a combination of LLM and knowledge graphs. And you'll be able to try it if you attend the workshop tomorrow.
So, you know, the SneakerNet example that you touched on earlier, it's a tiny little example, but in SneakerNet, we offered the capability to connect your PC to a printer. And all you had to do is put this Ethernet card in your PC and it would connect you to the printer. And a large fraction of the initial population refused to take that deal. They said, why would I want to spend $1,000 to get your network when I can take my file and put it on a diskette and walk down the corridor in my sneakers and watching the surprise as they realized a month later, it only took a month, they realized, well, maybe I just want to hit P instead of make a diskette and put the file on it. And that was without even considering all the other uses of the network. This was just a trivial surprise. So it's surprises like that where you're in a room and everyone believes X, and then a month later they believe not X because they're surprised. Anyways, a lot of that going on.
Yeah, it feels like convenience tends to win out. Situations like that.
Cheap also.
Yes, if you can put the two together, even better. Yeah. Listen, gentlemen, this has been a fascinating conversation. I expected nothing less, and I was not disappointed. Super looking forward to DKG Con tomorrow. By the time this comes out, like we said before, it'll have already been over. So we'll hopefully get some secrets there. Perhaps some secrets will be revealed, maybe. You guys have certainly been hinting at something interesting perhaps being announced or done tomorrow. So looking forward to finding that out. And thank you so much for traveling all the way just to talk with me. Just for me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for making the time for us.
Of course.
Thank you, John.